Disclaimer, I do not condone harassing or going to attack anyone in this video. This is simply being made to spread awareness as well as respond to some points in its video. This is purely for educational purposes. So Sam Candles has made a new video regarding the stuff that was discussed in my latest video as a response and defense about what she stated in that video. And I wanted to make a response video about this and go more into depth about it. If you haven't seen the last video, I'd recommend it, and I'll put a link to it in the top right now if you haven't seen it. I would also like to make a small apology here for getting its pronouns wrong in the comments and such. It was a mistake I own up to, and I don't intend to misgender it or anyone else. I will make sure to get this right in future, and I hope that does clear that up. Anyway, let's get into the video. In the beginning of Sam's video, around the 3-minute mark, she talks about how violent video games could be allowed to exist, aka a mass shooter simulator, and asks if it should be okay to be allowed to shoot up innocent people because it's immoral and a horrible thing. And says, yes, it should be, which I agree upon. But then she says it's because it helps us to explore our darkest thoughts that should not be acted out upon in reality, which through the power of art can help be realised in a context that doesn't have to hurt a real person. Now, I would like to fully agree with this, but not everyone actually plays these games and has these dark, immoral thoughts. And it's true it doesn't cause these people to cause harm, but there has been cases in media like this and other things that suggest that violent video games only cause aggressive feelings in individuals who have a pre-existing disposition, such as high neuroticism, low agreeableness, or low consciousness. Or even a case where Mark Andrew Twitchell, born July 4th, 1979, was convicted of a first-degree murder in April of 2011 for the murder of John Brian Altinger. This trial attracted particular media attention because Twitchell had allegedly been inspired by the fictional character Dexter Morgan. During his trial, Twitchell's interest in the television series Dexter was noted repeatedly, and his personal identification with its lead character, Dexter Morgan, a vigilante serial killer, prompted several media outlets to refer to him as the Dexter Killer. And another source I'll add is about a Philippine school shooting that happened, where 3 students were killed and 20 others wounded after 2 suspects, aged 15 and 14, allegedly fired handguns inside a classroom in Tacloban. Police said the 14-year-old was a player of Gorebox, a game where players can obliterate anything they desire, and engage in brutal combat with an extensive arsenal of weapons and explosives, according to its Google Play listing. Now, these things I mentioned above clearly show that it doesn't stop these individuals causing harm, or even this violent video game clearly did not stop or help these kids to get through their thoughts of harming another person. And that's something I wanted to mention, because if you think this can apply to quote-unquote taboo pornography, then you need to realise that exposing something like this to people could in fact feed into their desires, and possibly cause harm to real-life children, by adults who indulge into these pedophilic thoughts. And like the point about Aladdin or Call of Duty, yes, these pieces of art can leave certain impressions on certain cultures. I still don't think that this is truly relevant to the topic of lolicon and the pedophilia that it is essentially encouraging. On to the next section, she now tries to put artistic nudity and pornography nudity in the same area, which I find wild to hear. First of all, art is created to be appreciated. Porn is created to be consumed. The point of porn is essentially this. What she showed in the video.
You get the idea.
Naked art stops short of this because other features pull the audience's attention. It calls attention to the medium, not the content. Plus, with the Venus painting she shows off, it just shows an adult regardless, not a child, so I don't know how that correlates. In the next part of the video, she seems to bring up a book titled Lolita, which was a 1995 novel written by the Russian and American novelist Vladimir Nabokov? I think that's how you say that. The protagonist and narrator is a French literature professor who moves to New England and writes under the pseudonym Humbert Humbert. He details his obsession with the victimization of a 12-year-old, Dolores Hayes, who he describes as a nymphet. Humbert becomes sexually obsessed with Dolores after becoming her stepfather and romanticizes his obsession. This is obviously still vile, and I don't think it's nowhere near the same level as the lolicon content she is defending here, or even vouching for. She in the next part speaks how it's fascism, and this kind of censorship is obviously wrong, which I agree that censorship can be a very bad issue, but with lolicon and child pornography in general, it has already been illegal in many places, even in Japan. Child pornography was made illegal to own in 2014, but the issue of child sexualization continues. Which goes back to my earlier point, that just being exposed to it and having this kind of outlet does not stop the issue at hand with pedophilia. Also, I would like to show this, which was posted by the University of Oregon, Department of International Studies, which proclaims, since there is little to no work being done to prevent lolicons' presence in Japanese society, it is very easy for minors to acquire child pornography in cartoon form, even in convenience stores. Simultaneously, popularizing lolicon is a message to girls that they are objects for consumer consumption, and that their youth and innocence is especially desirable in a sexual setting. Which in my eyes is directly harming kids. It's objectifying young girls, and sending a message to them that they're objects for a consumer, and is desirable for a sexual setting. I think it is incredibly messed up you can defend something like this personally. It also objectifies kids to adults who have these urges and thoughts of doing such things to kids, and could very likely lead to the normalization of this kind of thing elsewhere, which would definitely put kids at harm, due to people then proceeding to act on these thoughts. In the next scene, she shows a quote by Tamaki Saito, if I said the name right, who stated, "Contrary to popular expectations, the vast majority of otaku are no pedophiles in real life. They are said to choose respectable partners of the opposite sex and to have the kind of sex lives one would term healthy. The evidence of this separation between textual and actual sexuality is that only a tiny number of otaku commit criminal acts, even though they number in the millions." Which statistically may be true, but we have to consider a lot of cases don't actually get reported. A source I have from Cambridge University Press states Japan is often said to have one of the lowest rape rates in the world, and Japanese police claim to solve 97% of rape cases, but in reality, only 5 to 10% of victims report it to the police, and police record half or less of reported cases, while prosecutors charge out 1/3 of recorded cases. The result of this process of caseload attrition is that for every 1,000 rapes in Japan, only 10 to 20 result in a criminal conviction, and fewer than half of convicted rapists are incarcerated. Another source I have by Japan Today shows how the rates of rape and sexual assault have increased, but seem shockingly low, and may possibly be due to underreporting. Which to me shows this quote she's shown really could be an inaccurate way to determine the fact it reduces harm here, or that there is a low amount of people that commit the crimes, as there very well could be a huge amount that don't get reported. Also, I want to point out how she then proceeds to mention how most fairies don't have an actual sexual attraction to real animals, which I don't like being brought up because those have nothing to do with this topic, and also nothing to do with each other. Zoophilia and being a furry are not the same thing at all, and I don't like how you kind of make that kind of connection in the video. Also, you are most definitely correct that these things don't turn someone into a pedophile, as they are not even connected in any way. Zoophilia is unrelated to pedophilia, but I will say zoophilia can also cause people to indulge in actual acts against animals too, since it's seeded in their brain already. But anyway, back to the actual topic at hand here. She mentions how having actual acts with children is wrong, disgusting, or any real images of children is wrong. And I am glad to see that they at the very least agree with that. And she's also correct that you shouldn't be around someone who calls herself a self-professed pedophile, and shouldn't be welcome in spaces around kids. I am not here to call for these people having thoughts to be punished. They just need to seek professional help. I just wanted to make this very clear. They keep throwing the word fascist around here, and I just want to make it known that this is in no way what I am trying to be with this. I generally think that these people need to seek help, and should seek a professional for therapy to help with these kind of thoughts, and we shouldn't be encouraging feeding into their desires with this kind of content. Which leads me to another argument I wanted to get into, which is about the addiction of porn and how it can lead to real world harm, and how this could also correlate with lolicon and CP in general. Sam in her video asks, can't lolicon be used to cope? How I'm going to go ahead and debunk this is no, it doesn't necessarily help cope, and in fact doesn't ease it. Eventually, a person gets bored and craves more, kind of like an addiction. Porn is an addiction in and of itself for a lot of people, and studies show that porn about such things as rape, for an example, can lead to viewing women as objects, acceptance of sexual aggression towards women, and perpetration of sexual aggression. It also shapes men's sexual expectations of women. This is all sourced from gov.uk. Now you are probably wondering how this has to do with lolicon or other child material used. This could all be used as an example of how lolicon is normalising viewing children as sex objects to pedophiles, shaping the expectation of this that it is fine to do to children. It also could potentially lead to acceptance or a lack of care for the sexual aggression of children, as seen by the cases in Japan that don't get reported on due to it being so normalized. And of course, it could also lead to perpetration of sexual aggression to a minor. The art is going to be addictive to these people, just like general porn is, and to be honest, you shouldn't give more alcohol to an alcoholic, as it's just not a healthy coping mechanism. So you wouldn't give lolicon media to pedophiles, as that is also not a healthy coping mechanism, as shown with porn addiction. I believe that concludes everything related to Sam's video. Sorry for the long video about this topic, everyone. I just felt like I really need to speak on this, as I just found it really disturbing. She used these arguments and tried defending it whilst in a server full of minors, which would have clearly drawn people like this to her and put them around minors to begin with. As far as I'm aware, she has archived her Discord now. I don't think any of this should have happened to begin with, and I just wanted to spread awareness about this, to be honest. Okay, so at the time of editing this video, I just realized that she made a new Blue Sky account, and she has a load of people following her that, enjoy Lolicon and defend Lolicon. I don't know what to make of this. I just thought I would share this at the end, that she's back on social media. And yeah, anyway, hopefully this video helps call out some things on how wrong this is, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye, my honeybees!